everybody, and welcome to today's review of Dr. Sleep. This is the new horror film directed by Mike Flanagan. It's an adaptation of Stephen King's 2013 novel, which also acts as a sequel to another one of his books, The Shining. The Shining was also adapted into a movie by Stanley Kubrick in 1980. So now this movie acts kind of as a sequel to both the book and the movie. Kind of a lot to deal with here. So Dr. Sleep picks up years and years after the events of The Shining. In this one, Danny Torrance, the little boy that we see riding on his tricycle throughout the hallways of the Outlook Hotel, is all grown up now, and he is finding it very difficult to deal with the traumas of his past. Mostly due to these psychic abilities that he possesses called The Shining. He is still being plagued by visions of dead people. He can see things that are happening now from great distances, things that are happening in the past. He just can't shake these visions, and it drives him nuts. So basically, he tries to suppress his powers. He descends into alcoholism and finds a steady job at a hospital and tries to live off the map, live a good, calm, clean life in the shadows. However, we find out later on that Danny is not the only one of his kind. We actually find out that there are lots of people who possess the Shining, and that there also is a group of people out to get them. This cult, known as the True Knot, basically seeks out all these children who possess the Shining, and they suck out their souls in order to kind of maintain their youth. They're not immortal, they can still die, but it sort of slows their aging process. And then one day, Danny telepathically connects with this girl called Abra, and the True Knot starts to go after her because they're starving, and they sense that Abra is the most powerful being that they've ever encountered, and they want her so bad. So now it's up to Danny to try to protect her. And there you have the plot. So I've been a fan of Stephen King for a long time. The first adaptation of his that I've seen was Secret Window. I loved that movie a lot, and it scared the hell out of me as a kid. And ever since then, I've seen more of his movies. Some were great, some were not so great. This year in particular, we were getting a lot of not so great movies, starting with Pet Sematary. That movie was kind of a mess to me. And It Chapter 2, it was okay. It was that kind of book was not easy to translate onto film, and it shows. So this year we didn't really have a good start. But finally we got a good Stephen King movie. And that's all due to director Mike Flanagan. This guy seemed to understand Stephen King. Not only was he able to make a good supernatural horror film, but he was able to tell a story about a character dealing with trauma and fighting their demons. It's very easy to make a cheesy horror film nowadays, and some come close to being really good, but there's always that one element that's missing, something that makes it feel complete. This movie was consistent throughout. The tone, the pacing, everything about it just felt right to me. It was never too much, it was never too little, it was just right. I mean, some people have criticized it for being a little bit too long. It's only 2.5 hours long. I mean, Endgame was longer than that. I didn't mind the long running time. I actually appreciated the fact that Mike Flanagan decided to take his time with this one. I think if you try to rush this kind of material, it could potentially become staccato. I speak, of course, from the acting side of this movie. Ewan McGregor and Rebecca Ferguson, they deliver great performances, as you would expect from actors with their talents. But it's the child acting that really stood out in this movie. I mean, this movie even has better child acting than It, Chapter 1. It feels like these actors are really inhabiting their characters. They understand them completely. They're living it, and they're delivering dialogue as if they were just talking. It's not just to tell a story or to tell what's going on or what happened or what's this or that. It's never expositional, is basically what I'm saying. Jacob Tremblay from Room actually makes an appearance in this movie, and that surprised me because I didn't know that was him. I mean, granted, Room was made a few years ago and he has aged over time. But he was brilliant. The scene that he had to do was just, oh man, it was very disturbing, but I was just very proud that someone as young as him could tackle on something so mature. And also the girl who plays Abra, Kylie Curran, she has a good career ahead of her. I can sense it. Every scene in the movie builds up very nicely all the way up to the climax. I'm not going to tell you what happens in the end because this is a spoiler-free review. There's a 10-minute sequence, in which case there's a lot of references being made to The Shining. It doesn't ever feel like it's fan service. It feels like it's just part of the story. It never really feels like the movie is ripping off Kubrick's movie. Just like The Force Awakens totally ripped off A New Hope. It's still Flanagan's own unique vision. Even if you haven't seen The Shining, this movie is still great on its own. The Shining is a classic. It's regarded as a horror masterpiece. So to direct a sequel to this while still maintaining your own vision seems like a daunting task, and I think Mike Flanagan did it. He absolutely did it. I think this movie is even better than The Shining. This movie had me invested from start to finish. It is seriously well written, with fully fleshed out characters who had well-deserving arcs. I really did not expect to like this movie as much as I did, given the lukewarm response it got on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, it was kind of low. But you know what? Screw it. You know, we like what we like, and I loved this movie. As of now, Dr. Sleep is currently my favorite film of the year. And that's just for now. I still have a ton of movies to watch, but I'm just saying. I'm gonna give this movie an A+. Plus. Thanks again for watching my video, ladies and gentlemen. I hope to see you again soon.